What if I told you that what you eat in the first 30 minutes after waking up could determine whether cancer cells in your body survive or die? And I don't mean that loosely or metaphorically. I mean it in a very real, very biological, very scientifically documented way. I'm Dr. Thomas Morgan, and today I'm going to share something with you that most people never hear in a doctor's office. Not because it's secret, but because we simply don't have enough time in a 10-minute appointment to sit down and explain the extraordinary connection between your breakfast and your body's ability to fight one of the most feared diseases on the planet. Stay with me until the end of this video, because the last thing I share is something that ties all of this together, and it's the part most people miss entirely. Let's start with a number, 1 in 6. That is the global statistic from the World Health Organization. 1 in every 6 deaths worldwide is caused by cancer, not heart disease, not stroke, cancer. And yet, research published in journals like Nature Reviews Cancer and Cell Metabolism shows us repeatedly that up to 40% of all cancers are preventable through lifestyle changes. And diet sits right at the top of that list. So, if you've ever thought, I can't do anything about cancer, I need you to rethink that right now. Here's what's happening inside your body every single morning. And this is where the science gets genuinely fascinating. Your body produces abnormal cells every single day. That's not a scary fact. That's just biology. Your immune system, under normal healthy conditions, identifies those rogue cells and eliminates them before they ever get a chance to multiply. That process has a name. It's called apoptosis, which is essentially programmed cell death. Think of it as your body's internal quality control system. When apoptosis is working well, abnormal cells are flagged, shut down, and cleared out. The problem, and this is the critical problem, is that certain foods, certain habits, and certain internal environments can disable that system. They can essentially turn off the switch that tells cancer cells to stop dividing. And what you eat first thing in the morning plays a massive role in whether that switch stays on or gets turned off. Now, before I tell you exactly what this breakfast looks like, I want to explain something called the inflammatory cascade, because without understanding this, the rest won't make as much sense. Chronic inflammation is the soil in which cancer grows. Think of your bloodstream as a garden. When that garden is calm, well-nourished, and balanced, healthy cells thrive and abnormal ones get weeded out. But when your body is in a constant state of low-grade inflammation, which, by the way, millions of people are living with right now without knowing it, that garden becomes the perfect environment for cancer cells to take root, grow, and spread. What causes chronic inflammation? Refined sugars, processed foods, seed oils, alcohol, a lack of antioxidants, and ironically, one of the most inflammation-triggering things you can do is start your day with the wrong breakfast. When you wake up in the morning, your cortisol levels are naturally elevated. That's normal. It's part of your body's wake-up mechanism. But if the first thing you eat is high in refined carbohydrates or added sugars, which unfortunately describes the breakfast of a significant portion of the population, you spike your blood glucose, you trigger an insulin surge, and you set off a biochemical chain reaction that promotes inflammation for hours afterward. That means the very beginning of your day, your body is already operating in a cancer-friendly environment. And this happens day after day, year after year, quietly, invisibly, until one day it isn't invisible anymore. So, what does the cancer-fighting breakfast actually look like? Let me walk you through it, and I'm going to explain the science behind each component so you understand exactly why this works. The foundation of this breakfast is cruciferous vegetables. I know, not what you were expecting at breakfast time, but hear me out because what I'm about to tell you about cruciferous vegetables is nothing short of remarkable. Broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, kale, cabbage, these foods contain a compound called sulforaphane, and sulforaphane is one of the most researched, most potent, naturally occurring anti-cancer compounds we have ever identified. A landmark study from Johns Hopkins University, which has since been replicated multiple times, showed that sulforaphane activates a protein called NRF2, which essentially switches on your body's own detoxification and antioxidant defense systems. It doesn't just fight free radicals, it tells your DNA to produce the proteins that fight free radicals. It's the difference between giving your body a single soldier and giving it a factory that produces an entire army. But here's the part that genuinely surprised me when I first reviewed this research. Sulforaphane has been shown in laboratory and clinical studies to selectively target cancer stem cells, the most dangerous cells in any tumor, while leaving healthy cells completely alone. A study published in the Journal Clinical Cancer Research demonstrated that sulforaphane suppressed cancer stem cell activity in breast cancer. Other research has looked at prostate cancer, colon cancer, and pancreatic cancer with similarly promising results. Now, I want to be careful here because I'm not telling you that broccoli cures cancer. What I'm telling you is that the compounds in these vegetables create a cellular environment in which cancer cells struggle to survive and replicate. That is not a small distinction. So, for this breakfast, you want cruciferous in some form, a handful of raw broccoli florets, some lightly steamed kale, even a green smoothie that includes raw cabbage or kale. The key word is raw or lightly cooked. Overcooking destroys the enzyme called myrosinase, which is required to convert the precursor compound glucoraphanin into active sulforaphane. So, the less heat, the better. The second component is berries, and not just because they taste good, though they do, but because berries, particularly blueberries, blackberries, and raspberries, are among the most antioxidant-dense foods on the planet. They contain compounds called anthocyanins, ellagic acid, and quercetin. Ellagic acid specifically has been shown in multiple studies to inhibit tumor growth by blocking the metabolic pathways cancer cells use to generate energy. Cancer cells are metabolically greedy. They consume glucose at a rate many times faster than normal cells, a phenomenon called the Warburg effect. Certain plant compounds, including those found in berries, can interfere with this metabolic process and essentially starve cancer cells of the energy they need to divide. 1 cup of mixed berries in the morning is not a trivial thing. It is a direct biological intervention. Now, let me add something that surprises almost everyone I share this with. Ground flaxseed. Just 2 TBSP sprinkled over your berries or stirred into a smoothie. Flaxseed contains something called lignans, phytoestrogens, that have been studied extensively for their role in hormone-sensitive cancers. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Oncology followed women with breast cancer who consumed flaxseed daily and found significantly reduced tumor cell proliferation compared to a control group. Flaxseed also provides alpha-linolenic acid, an omega-3 fatty acid that has anti-inflammatory properties, directly countering that inflammatory cascade I mentioned earlier. 2 TBSP every morning. That's all it takes. Next, and this is one most people overlook, green tea, not coffee, not orange juice. Green tea. I want to be very specific here because the research on green tea and cancer prevention is extensive and compelling. Green tea contains a catechin called EGCG, epigallocatechin gallate, which is probably the most studied natural anti-cancer compound after sulforaphane. EGCG has been shown in hundreds of studies to inhibit angiogenesis, which is the process by which tumors grow new blood vessels to feed themselves. Without a blood supply, a tumor cannot grow beyond a certain size. EGCG essentially starves growing tumors by cutting off their lifeline. A meta-analysis of over 50 studies published in the journal Carcinogenesis found that regular green tea consumption was associated with a reduced risk of several cancers, including breast, prostate, and colorectal cancer. Drinking 1 to 2 cups of green tea with your morning breakfast is not just pleasant, it is, based on available evidence, one of the most powerful cancer preventive habits you can build. The next element is eggs, specifically whole eggs with the yolk. And I want to address this because for years eggs got an unfair reputation. Whole eggs contain choline, a nutrient that is essential for DNA repair. And DNA repair is absolutely central to cancer prevention because most cancers begin with DNA damage that doesn't get properly repaired. Choline also supports methylation, which is an epigenetic process that controls gene expression, including the expression of tumor suppressor genes. Tumor suppressor genes are exactly what they sound like, genes that prevent cancer from developing. When methylation is disrupted, those genes can get silenced. 2 whole eggs in the morning provides nearly 300 milliliters of choline, which is over half of the recommended daily intake. That's not coincidental. That's targeted nutrition. And finally, turmeric. A quarter teaspoon of turmeric, ideally combined with a small amount of black pepper, because black pepper contains piperine, which increases the bioavailability of turmeric's active compound curcumin by up to 2,000%. Curcumin has been studied in over 3,000 published studies. It is one of the most anti-inflammatory, antioxidant, and anti-cancer natural compounds we have ever found. It works through multiple mechanisms simultaneously. It inhibits NF-κB, which is a protein complex that drives inflammation and cancer cell survival. It activates apoptosis in cancer cells, and it interferes with cancer cell signaling pathways. You can add turmeric to scrambled eggs, blend it into a smoothie, or stir it into warm water with lemon as a morning tonic alongside your meal. So let me bring this all together for you, because I want you to be able to walk away from this video with something concrete and practical. The cancer-fighting breakfast I'm describing consists of eggs cooked with a pinch of turmeric and black pepper, a cup of mixed raw or lightly wilted leafy greens like kale or arugula on the side, 1 cup of mixed berries with 2 TBSP of ground flaxseed, and 1 to 2 cups of green tea to drink alongside it. That's the template. It takes about 15 minutes to prepare. It costs less than a fast food breakfast. And based on the science I've just walked you through, it creates a biochemical environment in your body that is actively hostile to cancer cell growth and replication. Now, here's what I really want you to understand, and this is the part I promised you at the beginning. Cancer doesn't happen overnight. It is a process. It is a slow accumulation of cellular damage, chronic inflammation, failed DNA repair, and immune system suppression, often over years or even decades. That means prevention is not about a single dramatic intervention. It is about the 1,000 small choices you make every single day, repeated consistently over time. Your breakfast is one of those choices, and it's one you make every morning. Compounded over months and years, the difference between an inflammatory, blood sugar spiking breakfast and the anti-cancer breakfast I've described today could be genuinely life-changing, not in a vague motivational sense, but in a real, measurable, biological sense. I've had patients in my practice who made this shift, this single shift in their morning routine, and reported back not just in terms of general health markers, but in terms of reduced inflammation markers in their blood work, improved energy, stabilized blood sugar, and in some cases reduced tumor markers in follow-up monitoring. Food is not a replacement for medical treatment. If you are dealing with cancer, please work with your oncology team. But food is medicine. It always has been, and we now have the science to prove exactly how it works at the cellular level. If you've watched this far, I want to sincerely thank you, because the fact that you're here tells me you take your health seriously, and that alone puts you ahead of the majority. Knowledge is the first step, implementation is the second. Start tomorrow morning, make this breakfast, commit to it for 30 days, and pay attention to how your body feels, because your body will tell you when you're giving it what it needs. If this video gave you something valuable, a new perspective, a practical tool, or just a reason to think differently about what's on your plate, please hit the like button. It takes 2 seconds, and it tells me that this kind of content is making a difference. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that right now. I publish videos every week on evidence-based health strategies, disease prevention, and the real science behind living a longer, healthier life. Ring the notification bell so you never miss one. And in the next video, I'm going to reveal the 5 most dangerous breakfast foods that are silently fueling inflammation in your body. Foods that millions of people eat every single morning thinking they're being healthy. You'll want to see that one before tomorrow morning. I'll see you there.